Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experiences towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Grajdian, and in my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. Today's video is part of a new series on life at 45. As I have entered the second half of the 45th year of my life, there are specific thoughts and emotions I have been experiencing. While these are insights coming from myself as a woman, mother, and citizen, I deeply hope they might be helpful and useful for men as well. In today's video on Life at 45, I share my thoughts on politics and how the perception and evaluation of my involvement in politics has started to shift as soon as I entered the fourth decade of my life, not only me but also those around me. Like sexuality, work, and finances, my involvement in politics and developing a sense of the importance of political literacy have gradually taken over a central place in my preoccupations, while simultaneously allowing myself to discover dimensions of me which I had not known before to exist. Previously, I had totally ignored politics and politicians. So why suddenly things started to change as soon as I and those around me hit our 40s? This video explores this question on a personal level. So what has happened, or what has been happening, or what is happening that suddenly when we move towards the 40s, when we enter our 40s, politics becomes important? It's not that politics in itself is important, it's not about myself becoming a politician as someone who has been living outside of my country of origin for, essentially more than half of my life and my entire adult life. It's becoming a politician is not really an option. But what has happened is that I started to become aware of the fact that the things we're deciding now, the things we're doing now as grown-ups impact definitely and very strongly and essentially the future. I started to become aware that if we want a different kind of future, we really, really want to make different decisions now than our predecessors, than the previous generations. It is interesting that not many people, at least around me, I don't know anyone who has this awareness that the decisions we're making nowadays, the way we're shaping the world nowadays, is actually creating the future of tomorrow, is actually creating the present time for our children, is preparing the ground for their lives. It's stunning once one comes to this realization that it is us, the parents, who are creating the future which will be the present time of our children. And complaining about what is going on and really displaying this sense of despair and hopelessness and powerlessness, which has become a sort of hallmark of younger generations nowadays, is not going to help. So it's not about becoming politically active and becoming a politician and or a lobbyist for political parties or active supporter for any sort of political orientation or political construction. It's about becoming aware that what we're doing now is actually going to create the future, which is the world in which our children are going to live. And our grandchildren, if there will be any grandchildren, the way the world looks like right now, it doesn't look very helpful and very promising. I push myself to be a positive person and to see the good, something good in any event around me and in all the people I'm encountering and I have been encountering, and to extract positive life lessons for everything that has been happening and had been happening in my life. But really looking at the future and looking at what is happening nowadays in the world, I cannot think of a future which is actually worth living in. We have to be very honest about this. We have to be very honest about the kind of world, the kind of planet we are leaving behind to our children. And it's also not only about the planet itself, it's also about preparing the ground for humanity to expand itself towards next planets, towards a living space, a habitat outside the Earth. And we know this. Like, I don't know about others, but there are a couple of intellectuals around me who actually share these concerns, but the concerns as a way of being preoccupied with what we leave behind and what kind of future we are actually creating and co-creating at the moment. This means that previously I was someone who was totally ignorant of politics and proactively actually keeping myself out of any political discussion. But nowadays I have become much more active, also because I don't think that so local politics is completely separated from global politics. So regional politics is different from international politics. I don't think so. I think what, for instance, is happening in terms of political decisions at the local level does have some repercussions on a more regional and then global level. It's really not so much about shutting oneself down into one's oystrik, what they call an oystrik strategy. So I have my head in the sand. I don't see the world anymore. This means the world ceases to exist. The world stops existing. This is not true. And this is really the attitude of an oystrik or of an immature child. Not even children do this. Children are actually much more courageous in facing the reality and facing the world and saying, well, it is what it is. So I cope with it. There is no other way than coping with it. This vital resilience of children is actually what helps them survive, but then will have very negative repercussions in one's adult life, because one doesn't grow in a healthy manner and applies later on the same strategies from childhood in one's adult life, which is negative and has detrimental consequences. But coming back to politics, as soon as I entered my 40s, and actually while getting closer to my mid-40s, I realized you cannot just ignore politics and say politicians are lazy psychopaths, which I believe they are. Like no normal people, no normal humans would actually try to control other people's, because this is what, and decide the lives of other people by making laws which they are actually not impacted by. So if you look at many laws decided and implemented by politicians nowadays, they do not have a connection with themselves. They are actually only for the masses, for those who have to obey because they have no other choice. But what I think is important is that as we mature, and because we live such long lives, I come back to this topic again and again, to the fact that we live such long lives, and once we live such long lives, we normally healthy adults come to the realization that, what we are living now will become the past of a present, which is nowadays a future, in which our children will have to live. And unless we do something about it, it will be a very dysfunctional one, in the same manner in which our present has been essentially happening to previous generations. They didn't think about the fact that they are creating the future. They were just living their lives. And becoming aware of this fact, aware of the fact that what we're doing nowadays will tremendously, fundamentally, crucially, essentially impact the future, which will be the present of our children. This realization actually made me question my indifference and so disdain, contempt towards politics, and decide to become more active, more proactive, and to have a clear attitude about what I'm expecting from politicians, from political leaders, and from those around me. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I have delivered some insights. And as always, I'm looking forward to welcoming you here very soon. Again, love and peace to you all.